5:30, 6 o'clock.
I mean, at least they're giving us decent heads ups. I mean, I think that's the one thing that's changed over the last couple years.
For most of it, yeah, it's not all as like total shocks. You're not getting all that info at like 5:30, 6 o'clock. Like, yeah,
right.
At least in inkling, you can plan like what we were talking about yesterday, like with the if-then idea. Like, you know,
just like with Embiid, it's like, all right, well, he popped up. Harden got the rest the day before. Embiid hasn't really missed any games. Good chance he's out tonight.
Yeah.
All right, Stokastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac talking a little NBA action, a little hoops with my good buddy Terry McBride. What is going on, good sir? You got me in a chatty, typey mood last night as I was checking in on 2 money leagues where it looks like I'm going to be victorious as long as there's not like 6 fumbles by a single player in tonight's game.
Attaboy. Well done. Yeah, I had a bunch of my season-long teams suffer from me not realizing that it was Thursday this past Thursday, which one thing I hate about fantasy football, like season-long, is like you make one stupid mistake like that and it can kill your whole season. I had a solid handful of teams that started either Derrick Henry or Tony Pollard or both this week that were not good for first and third place games. So, yeah. That's going to hurt the old season-long outcomes, but it was fun while it lasted. It's been a weird football season, definitely been a weird basketball season like we've been talking about. A lot of moving parts on today's slate, of course, and yeah, looking forward to getting into it. Wasn't the most successful weekend overall, but clawed back some of what I was losing in football via basketball last night, so that was good. I had 3 or 4 chasers through the end of that FanDuel tournament, and then oddly that you saw where Robert Williams broke Denver, and Denver was the entire city was off level for like a half hour last night. Yeah. That was just weird, and it impacted the standings in odd ways because that Memphis-Sacramento game was, 4 or 5 minutes behind everything else, and then that finished ahead of the other one. So all of a sudden the standings got a little upside down, but yeah, fun slate. And
yeah, it's always interesting when you see a whole bunch of games going at once. Tonight we've got 5 different start times with 10 teams, so it's kind of coming in 3 waves. There's some 7 o'clock, there's 8 o'clock, and then there's 3 games on the West Coast. We're going to talk No House Advantage because that's who we are brought to you by here. So please do give us a thumbs up on this. Help us battle that pesky YouTube algorithm. We would appreciate it. Also, join us as a subscriber here. You can hit that little notification bell and get a little alert anytime we go live. And boy, we are going live all the time on the Stokastic YouTube channel. Heck, we've got 4 other channels that we've started here. Well, I guess technically 3 between Odd Shopper, Fantasy Football, and I'm blanking on the other one. But I know I've got 4 favorited channels up top here on my my YouTube bar. So it's kind of fun to see the growth here. But we're up to 85,000 subscribers.
Not too shabby. 100K in sight.
Lead us towards 100K. It'll be a good time here. I see Stephen Leibowitz is in the chat. Karina Barnes, welcome to the Team Stokastic here. But let's jump on in. We've got No House Advantage. So they have 2 different game formats. We're going to talk about both of them. I'm going to drop the free projections link here into the YouTube chat. We're going to talk about their tournaments. This is their peer versus peer game, so there is no house advantage. They set props. We choose said props. We create a card of 10 for NBA tonight, 7 for NFL. We pick over or under. If we are correct, we get those points. Those points are what we get as our score. That tells us who wins the tournament. So we'll be breaking these down. They also have a versus the house format. That is their actual live player props. These other ones that we're going to talk about, they're static. Think of them like salaries. They don't change once they've been posted, like the other sites don't change their salaries for news. That's so we're all working off the same card. The other is live sports wagering. So it is limited to player prop parlays. But if you're in a state that is not enlightened and doesn't have sports wagering legalized yet, and you have no house advantage, you can scratch that itch over there on the versus the house contest. And you want to get your account started. If you have not yet signed up, going through the link below us here in the YouTube description, and you will get a deposit match up to $100 with your first deposit. So we're going to look at our little projections page here. We have 3 different tabs. We're going to be focusing on the middle one. That is going to be giving us the over-under odds on the lines here for the contest. But we've got a couple right off from the jump here that are in that 98% range. That's a little wild, potentially aggressive, but we do see Bones Highland with the points, rebounds, and assists at 26.5. We're projecting him for 16.4. Why the disparity? Well, because Jamal Murray's going to play tonight. He didn't play last night, and he's been in and out of the lineup there a little bit. So that I think is an easy one to go under. You also have Tyrese Maxey, points, rebounds, and assists. He's not yet ready for a full workload. He has played one game after missing 18 with a fractured foot. He'll probably play around 20 minutes tonight. He could be incredibly efficient, but that's going to be a tough mark to get. And then Dante DiVincenzo, 33.5. That's a pretty aggressive number, even considering half of Golden State is on the injured report tonight. What are you liking here at the top? These seem like this should make about a third of our card from these 4 or 5.
Yeah, I mean, anytime we're getting a day with a solid, 6-7 picks above 90% on the unders, a couple more on the overs, we've got a lot to work with in terms of these are our cheap value plays. If you're thinking in terms of, your traditional DFS type sites. So it's a matter of landing them with your confidence rankings. And I think there's no problem at all going to that Bones Highland PRA, the Tyrese Maxey PRA, both of those 98.5%, 99.6%. I think we've gotten away from the habit of calling things 100%, but those are both pretty damn likely to come through. Neither one of these guys is going to see the minutes that they're going to require to get to those marks. Bones Highland, 20.9 minutes a game, 18.8 on the PRA average. We're projecting for 18.5 minutes tonight. So we've got him going well under that, basically by 10 combined points, rebounds, and assists under that mark. And like you were saying, he's quote priced. The line is set for a situation with Jamal Murray out, him getting either the start or a bunch of minutes via that situation. And that's not going to be the case tonight. Additionally, on top of that, we saw Bruce Brown get the start last night, get the lion's share of the opportunity there. So I just don't like the upside for Bones Highland in a DFS format, it makes me really like this PRA. And then Maxey, like you said, just on the under, he's just not going to see that time. Before the game in his first time back last two games ago, they said he's going to have managed minutes. He only went out and played 19, then had the last game off. So they're very, very much managing him and working him back into the mix here. So I would expect that to go well under, and that's how we've got it projected as well, 20-minute projection.
Yeah, that just makes a lot of sense here. And those are ones, it's like every now and then we're going to get some gimmies like this. There's still definitely ways you can differentiate your card. And hey, there's a reason they play these, right? Because, hey, the 49ers defense is going to be awesome against Baker Mayfield in the oh, wait, maybe not, right? So there's a reason they play these games, right? Oh, the blowout risk, this team's going to lose. They got their ass kicked? How'd that happen, right? So we just have to keep our eye on some of these. One here that does feel a little bit risky is the Jonas Valanciunas points, rebounds, and assists at 31.5. We have Larry Nance Jr. has been dealing with a neck issue. So whenever he is out, there's always the potential that Joval could see 30, 32, 34 minutes. And in those scenarios, he can really rack up the points and rebounds. So that's one I'd probably stay away from. But otherwise, it would be a good one because we're seeing him with around 24, 26, 28 minutes most nights, which just isn't enough for him to get there unless everything is going his way. But this could be
and that's how we've
nights.
got him projected. Yeah, we've got him projected for that 25-ish minute night. And if he does end up seeing that night where he's around, 30 plus anyway, on the per 36 cents, his per 36 PRA is a 36.4. So we're well over that if he saw 36 minutes ever. We don't expect, even a good situation that he's going to see 36. But you could absolutely see the situation where, 30, 32 gets him very, very close to that number, if not over it. So that one does seem a little bit more fragile based on that minute situation. A 90+ percenter that's sitting there that I do think is kind of interesting is the one immediately below it, Trae Young on the rebounds. 5.5 just seems like a really juiced line for Trae Young's rebounding, averaging 2.8 a game and per 36 cents, 2.9 because he plays basically 36 minutes a night. It's just a 3.8% rebounding share. So just not what Trae does. And it seems like they're giving him quite a lofty line to get to there. So that one feels like a comfy one, and maybe one just people skip over star names a lot of the time in searching for these picks. They just think under, whatever it is, they're not going to go there. So I think Trae might be a easy differentiator to maybe, bump it up a few spots into the mix with some of those higher 90s ones.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point with Trae. That's something that Alex has said for the last couple of years. Alex Baker. Okay. He has said that that's the one thing that really keeps Trae Young from ever being a true DFS superstar is he just doesn't get the rebounds. and it just holds him back. And now they've got DeJounte Murray there, who's another good rebounder. They have a really good front court, even with Clint Capella out. They still have Onyeka Okongwu. They've got John Collins, DeAndre Hunter dinged up, but they've got a lot of rebounders around there. It's just not something they need him to do. So
and it's actually knocked Trey's rebounds down from an already pretty anemic 3.7 a game, 5.3% last year to the 3.8% that I said, and 2.8 rebounds a game. So it's just had an impact already on him and just made him that much worse in terms of, the fantasy overall upside, which is a weird thing to say about an excellent basketball player. It's that it makes him worse, but it does shave a little bit of his upside off.
All right, checking out. Let's see what recent birthday boy LeBron James has. That's one of the nice things here. If you want to look for a specific player, you can just put their name in the search bar here. Makes it easy to quickly find things. No House Advantage on their side also does have that feature as well. But I like to. I'm a minimalist. I like to look at our stuff, figure out what I want to do, and then go enter my lineups on the website. I'm not really
I put it all in Excel, and Excel does all that fun stuff with filters.
Yes, yes.
that for LeBron.
We do have the nice export button here. We can do that as well. Since I'm usually only building out one lineup or one entry on No House Advantage, I tend to do it this way. But but
that's what's great. I mean, if you are looking at those picks and you want to do something kind of like what I'm talking about, like what I look at while we're doing these shows is I just built a little dashboard for myself. So it just searches the player name and it pulls in whatever stats I want. So I've got their various, this year's stats, their percentages, the per game stats, and then I've got last year's, and then I've got their per 36 numbers. You can put whatever stats you want next to it so that while you're looking at our probabilities at our win rates, you can see what are they doing this season? What is the history behind it? What are the rates behind it? What's feeding the information here? Or you can just take it right off the website. So you can get as deep with this stuff as you want, or you can go, as shallow as you want and still enter really, really good lineups. It's just a couple different ways to do it, and we try and enable you to do however you want to do it.
Yes. So LeBron, the birthday boy, turned 38. Had like 47 points in his birthday game. He's going against Charlotte tonight. That's a nice matchup, but his numbers are relatively appropriate. You could start to look at his PRA, his points, rebounds, and assists. We're projecting for 47.4. The number's 41.5. I'd feel comfortable taking the over on that one, but the rest of them individually, I'm not so sure, just because his game tends to morph to whatever the team needs. If they need less facilitating, more scoring, he does that. So I kind of, his assists, while he usually is a threat for a triple double, his assists are somewhat tenuous. Sometimes his rebounds can be as well. So scoring is usually his most dependable category, but the PRA as a whole definitely is, because he touches the ball seemingly on every projection there. Other one I wanted to look at was do we have any James Harden ones? So we do here. We'll have to see what happens. Be careful with these. If Joel Embiid does get ruled out, a lot of these unders are going to flip to overs, particularly the 7.5 rebounds. I would consider taking the over 7.5 on that one. Right now, our under is 80%, but Harden actually a reasonably good rebounder, especially when Embiid is off the court. And Harden's really morphed his game. He's only scoring in the low 20s. He's only played about 20 or 22 games so far this season. His assists are up, but he can do kind of whatever the team needs. And if Embiid is going to be out, then they're going to need his rebounding. From that standpoint, let's flip to the overs, because who wants to root for unders unless you're going to win money on it. Looking at the overs, the Harden assist line, there's your bunny right there. 7.5, we have him for 10.2. Yeah, that's, I don't want to say lock that in, but lock that in, because that's a seemingly good line in all situations for him. What are you seeing here? We got a couple 1.5s. I know I got to do the show with Gundacker last week, and he was saying that you guys have started really kind of eyeballing the 1.5 and 2.5 3-pointers. Looks like we got a couple decent ones here. What's your take on the Kyrie Irving, the Tyrese Halliburton, and Christian Wood?
Yeah, so there's some really interesting ones. Primarily for me, I think the Tyrese Halliburton one up at the top. It's not the biggest in terms of volume, but he's just been shooting so well. He's taking 7.5 a game. Usually we're looking for a lot of volume. These guys taking 9 to 12, somewhere in there kind of shots a game. And we can look at a guy like LaMelo Ball in a second, who's taking 11.3 a game, making 4.2 a game. But we've got the supporting evidence with Tyrese. He's making 3.1 a game, shooting 40% from three, 40.9% 41% from three in his 7.5 takes. He's just been fantastic this season. I mean, averaging 10.2 assists, a 46.5% assist rate. But this is one that's sitting there at 92% on our probability marks, just under that Harden assists line, which I really also like quite a bit that you just mentioned. So I would take both of those off the top of the board. Maybe you use them down the card a little bit and get a little, differentiated with some of your meteor picks, from some of these next ones, like the Kyrie at 2.5. Kyrie's taking 8.4 a game, making 3.1, but only shooting, quote unquote, only shooting 36.5%. So you'd like to think that maybe there's a little bit more to give there in terms of a few additional makes, going forward. At 2.5, I don't love it. It's sitting just below 80%, but I do think it's a strong enough pick that I think there's plenty for him to do out there in this matchup. There should be plenty of pace, plenty of opportunity. So I don't see a reason to really go away from that one. It's similar with the LaMelo one too. He's sitting all the way up at 3.5, but just based on the sheer volume, the number that he's taking and the number that he's making, how well he's been shooting, I think there's still enough there that you can chase that one at 77.4%. Maybe you bump that up the card a little bit, use them to just differentiate yourself somewhat. But any one of those threes on our board, the Christian Wood one is strong. The Spencer Dinwiddie one is strong. Neither of one of those guys are volume kings, but both of them are percentage wise making quite a few threes this year. So I think you're there on most of those. This Christian Wood one is probably the thinnest because, we're looking at averages with a 27.8 minute average. He's making 1.8 a game, taking 4.5. But we've got him projected to play upwards of 31 minutes tonight. So with the additional run, with the additional volume, I do expect there's an upside beyond that 1.5 threes. So any one of those top end threes, I think you're perfectly fine going to here.
All right, another one that tenuous is the word we're going to use on this is the Damian Lillard, 6.5 assists. So the one thing we want to remember about Lillard, despite him being an amazing point guard, he does most of his work scoring, right? He's always had combo guards working with him, including CJ McCollum. Now it's Anthony Simons here. So the interesting thing with him is the 6.5 line. While it feels low, this is kind of one of those nip and tuck ones, right? We're projecting him for 7.6. It's a reasonable matchup for this one. But if we go look at his game logs in handy dandy, Terry, I'm sure has this all out on his spreadsheets. I'm looking at Basketball Reference, but if I look at this year's game logs, I can see that 14 of his 23 games, he's had 7 or more. 3 others, he's had 6. So he's always going to be right in that area. He's only has 5 games with double-digit assists. So assists really aren't his game, but he's going to play 36, 38 minutes almost every night. And just by happenstance of how the offense works in with Portland, he's going to end up with a half a dozen assists. And so this is kind of a more predictable one that we're just going to get there by the end of the game. I still like it, but this would be like a 1, 2, or 3 confidence for me. But this is sometimes why you got to look at the context there. Hey, he makes it 3 out of 4 times. That's pretty good. But boy, it's a nail biter. And half of those, hey, you're waiting till the fourth quarter. You hope he gets that second rotation, right? And that's sometimes right. That can be a little bit risky, even though at the end of the day, the results generally are going to be there, just the way their rotations work. But that's what
the 6.5 feels comfy enough. If that was 7, I'd be, that's starting to get real thin. If we're going higher than that, then you're really talking. And that's where it would be probably, again, the versus the house one and in a traditional sports book. That's the luxury of having these lines for the versus the field contests. You get a little bit of room on a play like that, so it'll probably give you a bit of a sweat. Most of those are coming down, and the ones that you mentioned are coming down in like the 8 range, so we're walking a thin tightrope there. I probably would agree, knock it down a couple pegs maybe in terms of the confidence rating, but I do think it's right there. What do you think about the Zion Williamson points one sitting at 21.5? They finally figured out that Zion's really good at basketball, and they've got this up a little bit from where it was a couple of weeks ago, but it's still well below the 26.7 that we've got him projected for here.
Yeah, the big thing with Zion is, well, one, he's big. He is the big thing. But no Brandon Ingram, right? So Ingram's now missed, like, I think it's almost 20 games with his toe. issue. So we Zion was in the health and safety protocol. He's been back for 3 games. He kind of took one of the games he sat sort of just to get his conditioning ready. So he really only missed 9 days between his games played, and COVID in between. But he played 34 minutes in that first game back, then 31, then 28. In these games, he has just been racking up the points. The free throw attempts have been off the charts, 19, 16, and 10. That's rather impressive. More often than not, he's getting double-digit free throw attempts. Right from there, you're getting a great baseline that's approaching just 8 or 9 points. And then he's taking, another 15 to 22 field goal attempts, depending on what the team needs. So his last 3 games, 43, 36, and 20. That's just NBA points, right? That's not even fantasy points. He has 21 games with at least 21 points. What was his number? 21 and a half. So he's had 20 of his 28 have been 23 or higher. So this just feels like a good one all the way around. Even his whiffs were 21, 20, 19, 18, 16, 16, 14, and then 9 when he only played 23 minutes. Don't know the circumstances of that game. Doesn't look like it was foul trouble. And you'd need a weird
outlier, foul trouble, injury, something like that to miss this line. I think that just feels pretty comfy in this spot here, and potentially no Nance coming out of that front court as well. Just a lot of minutes to go around, so you would see the upside for minutes for him. I think not a downside in most situations.
All right, shout out for Charles Moran. He's in the chat. Says best show in sports. Hand these guys an Emmy. Yeah, that'll get us started on our EGOT. Right.
There we go.
The
right.
Emmy,
my Oscar
Tony,
campaigns
Oscar,
have not been
Grammy.
going well the last few years, but I'm hopeful next year.
Yes.
The year.
Yes. So thank you. We appreciate those kind words. Let's do one last circle over here. Let's go to the verses.
You sing, you're gonna have to win us the Tony. I can't sing.
I
act on stage, I think, but I definitely couldn't sing.
I'm not the best. My family's very musical and very good singers. I can carry a tune, but I'm not. I would not be a good lead.
Yeah, you might have to do it anyway. You might have to bite the bullet on that one.
Yes, as long as used to do karaoke way back when obviously I was much younger.
I love karaoke. I just can't sing.
Going out to the bar days. Joy to the World, 3 Dog Night was my
Traveling Band by Creedence was mine.
Okay,
that was always my go-to.
Good. Yeah.
A lot of yelling, a lot of repetition, nice and easy.
Yeah, Steven he says Savoke is going to be needed for the Tony. Yes, we'll recruit Matt since he was on the prior show. He is now part of the No House Advantage afternoon.
That's right.
Group here, but we're going to go to versus the house props. I'm going to hit refresh here just to make sure I got the updated numbers. These will update every 10 minutes or so, but this is the versus the house. So now we're not going to be seeing these lofty 80 and 90% win rates, right? Because we're back into player props. We build out a parlay card. You go 2, 3, 4, or 5. You got to get all of them right, but the more you choose on your card, the more you get correct, the higher the payout. Go 5 for 5. That's 21x payout of your entry fee. It's the largest payout in the industry. So we like to say pick 2s, pick 3s, keep that steady wins coming in, because if you think about it this way, how demoralizing is it that you're only expected to win probably 1 out of every 25 times to get that 21x. Yikes, easy risk of ruin if you're going with stars in your eyes. I'd rather not have to redeposit, but I do play those extended ones, usually one per day.
You gotta have your fun. You gotta have your hopes and your dreams and your chasers and everything. But and we've talked about this with all DFS sites and everything. You're very good at having that programmatical and regimented approach where you're not taking the big swings and the big risks and the big downside, and you just steadily build and you never deposit and you enjoy it and you go and
So like put it this in perspective. On a 2 or a 3 card one, I would go $10 or $15. On a 5 buy, I would go like $3. Right. So it's more
taking a huge risk, but you still get your, big payout and your upside card and everything. It's the right way to do it.
Absolutely. But there's some interesting ones here up at the top. So we've got
and these are under the free NBA data for anybody looking, by the way. If you go in on the NBA tab down the bottom, free NBA DFS data, it's the top tab from there into the No House projections, because this is all free at the site, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely. So Luka Doncic under 3.5 3-pointers. We're projecting him for 2.7. So he's on the heater of all heaters, right? I mean, 4 of his last 5 games, FanDuel scoring 80 or more fantasy points. Tonight, he's going against Houston. In this 5-game stretch, he's shooting 59.8% on 25.4 field goal attempts, and he's making half of his 3-pointers. He's taking 8 per game. I don't think that's let me do the math. Yeah, that's not sustainable. It's not going to continue. It literally can't. But I also got to point out, this is the 2 of his outings in this stretch have been against the Rockets. So does he own them? I don't know. He kind of owns everybody in the league. Should they at least be familiar with this game? Well, everybody knows he's going to have the ball in his hand on every possession. Can anybody do anything about it? I don't know. But he's going to have to take 8 and make 4 of them to lose this. That can't keep happening. So I'm okay taking the under on this one. It doesn't feel great, but it's 71% of a chance of that he does not get 3.5.
Yeah, it's our strongest pick in the against the house at that 3.5 number. And it's interesting to look across to the other contest where against the field, he's at 2.5. And we've got him projected for 2.72. So that's a 57% to go over on the against the field one. So you can see the difference between the lines that they're offering and how tight it can get when you've got a guy like this who, like you're saying, it's not an immense volume of threes, 8.2 a game. So that's for the season. So he's actually taken, if it's 8 a game over this recent stretch, he's actually taken 0.2 fewer per game, but he's made 1 additional one because for the season, he's only making 3 a game. So on the average, he's a half a 3 below where we need him to be for the against the house line, and he's a half a 3 above for the against the field line here. I really like it on both sides. I think you can go the against the house line is stronger. I like that one better if we're picking between the two, but I think you can play either one.
And then the other one, I can't believe I'm going to say this, and this is going to be a talk. I mean, Kevon Looney. So no Kuminga, he's out. Wiseman out. Steph Curry obviously out. Andrew Wiggins obviously out. JaMychal Green, not only does he have a foot issue, he's in the health and safety protocol. All of a sudden, we're looking at Kevon Looney here. It's like, buddy, how many minutes can you handle? Now, we're projecting him, when I looked earlier, we're projecting him for like 27 or so, which is about his usual. We've been disappointed in these situations so many times by him. He was good in the playoffs, right? He had a nice breakout, but we haven't seen him need to really do much in the regular season. He's just kind of there, right? He rarely crests over 30 fantasy points. It's just a thing. But you know what he does do? He does get some assists. In 20 of his 37 games, so in half of his games, he's had 3 or more assists. And you got to get back to the prop. The prop on his assists is 2.5. Yep. I'm willing to roll the dice on the over because there should be extra minutes here for him tonight. Get him around 30%, and that would kind of be the key. And it's something that I think is important to look at. I think it would be hard because to make this work, No House Advantage would have to go to 3.5. We take the under in that case, just because weird stuff can happen. But at 2.5, I want the over.
And I think, with the expectation, we've got him at 25.7 minutes tonight. For the season, he's averaged 22.9, putting up 2.9 assists on a 16% assist rate, which, like you're saying, that's a pretty solid assist rate for this player. Not really what you would expect. In a per 36 sense, he's at 4.5 assists. So if we could get a little bit beyond that 26-ish minutes that we're projecting him for, if we could say just, if we could hit that 30 bar, then maybe even the 3.5 would be in play. But at 2.5, I really like it. I think we're strongly there just on the average what he normally gets. And with the expectation of more minutes, more opportunity, seems like an easy one to pick off there.
Yeah, so those are kind of the key ones I think we want to look at. And then the Tyrese Halliburton over 2.5. We already talked about that one. Or we talked about how I think it was 1.5 on the regular game. Yep. He's getting enough volume and his accuracy is enough that I think that the 2.5, if I wanted to build a 3 player card here, I would feel comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. Trying to go more than that, it gets a little rough, right? This is why they call it gambling, right? It's not, these are not gimmies. by any stretch of the time, but I feel pretty confident you can build some 2 and 3 player.
What about that LeBron assists under? It's down the board a little bit. It's sitting at 60%. We've got him projected at 6. The line's 6.5. We were kind of talking about that. It's a spot where, when we were looking at it for the overs for LeBron, for his points, for his PRA, for his assists, I was kind of thinking like, yeah, I was agreeing with you. I'd rather chase those overs on like points or something where, it's not reliant on this oddball cast of characters that he has to work with. And when you're thinking of assists, like there is a second end to that, right? It's not just what LeBron does. The guy has to make his shot. The guy has to finish the opportunity. So if I'm thinking through it in that kind of a terms, I don't really mind going to this one here. It's not the meatiest one, but at 60%, it's definitely on the board for consideration in the Against the House contest. And I think there's a lot of supporting reasons to, to think that through. Even if you do get the night where LeBron says, all right, I've got to do more facilitation tonight, those guys could not end up not coming through on his, potential assists. So it's not a potential assist line. Those guys have to complete it for him. I think maybe there's some support to that idea.
I'm just looking here to see where we're at. So he has half his games. He has 6 or fewer assists on the season. And
how about out of the games without AD?
Well, I don't have I'm not smart enough to know how to do that.
Get that one down. All right.
No, but I can tell you that he's averaging about 37 in the games where he is under. So it's not for lack of playing time.
Yeah. I think there's just potentially a lot of that, just lack of ability to finish from the Lonnie Walkers and so on of the world.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the show here. But reminder, join up there at No House Advantage. Get in on that overlay. There'll be plenty tonight for NBA. They're going to have NFL as well for the showdown. Finally, we get a game worthy of prime time. Here we've got Josh Allen and the Bills heading into Cincinnati, taking on Joe Burrow and the Bengals. So that's going to be a fun one tonight. We of course had that No House Advantage show prior to us. So if you want to see what the best NFL bets are, you can check that out. And then it's just kind of a No House Advantage afternoon. They're bringing you the deeper dive at 5:00 with Lofty, and Ridpack is joining him. And then we're going to have Live Before Lock with Greg and Eric, and then NFL Live Before Lock at 7:15 with Matt Spoka and Neil Orfield. Oh, yeah. That's all brought to you by No House Advantage. So going through the link.
That game of the year? Probably is, right?
Probably. Oh no, it is the last Monday night.
Yeah, it's got to be right. Yeah.
Yep, because next week is week 18. There will be a Sunday night game. They've got to see where everybody is in the standings before they flex it, because they'll try to do one where I think that isn't impacted.
I think they flexed the Jags Titans game to Saturday night. Because I was looking at a thing earlier that said the Jags got burned on that because it's a 6-day rest now for them.
Oh, really? I was not aware of that.
Titans rested everybody this weekend after playing, the Thursday game or whatever.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave. Oh, you are correct. I just
saw that before we got on the show, so I could.
I did not. It's because they flexed them, right? So Kansas City and Las Vegas and Tennessee and Jacksonville. Like, I didn't think there was Saturday football this week. It's 4:30 and 8:15. I guess I'm writing 2 articles.
That should be a fun one.
Yeah, I guess I'm writing 2 articles this week. I was all celebrating I'm down to 1 before we get into to wild card weekend, which is now 3 days: Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So we're going to have a lot of fun. But with that, we're going to get on out of here. You can follow Terry on Twitter at DigitalB21. I am at EMac DFS. Of course, it is Stokastic_COM. Thank you to No House Advantage. Sign up with the link in the description of this YouTube video, and you will get a $100 deposit match. With that, gamers, good luck.